Diane's nightmare is absolutely fantastic. This is the fifth episode of the fourth season of Cheers, directed, of course, by James Burrows and written by David Lloyd. And it's an absolute roller coaster. And there will be huge spoilers from now, as always, I'm going to go through various things that I loved, and well, there's nothing about this that I didn't like. So huge spoilers from now. It starts off with Woody, Cliff, and Sam playing a word game. We find out that Diane is sleeping in the office because she's been studying a lot. Everything seems perfectly normal. And then a little later on, Diane is awake. Sam actually explains to her that they found a wine cellar, well, a cellar, when somebody came in to do some work on Diane's day off, and there was a staircase behind the wall. So Cheers has a wine cellar. That's pretty cool. Norm comes in wearing a jacket and a hat. It's raining outside. It's very stormy, very atmospheric, and he reads the paper and finds out that Andy Schroeder, who was in season one, has escaped, and Diane screams. And my cat was terrified. Twice, because I actually rewound it to take the screenshot. My poor cat. Brilliant performance from Shelley Long, of course. And then the lights go out, and it's pitch black. And I want to give them credit for it not being pitch black for too long. There are plenty of TV shows and films where things are pitch black, and it goes on for too long, and it becomes really boring because there's nothing to look at. But I think they managed to do it for the perfect length of time. Unfortunately, Diane is terrified because the phone is dead, and Norm has gone down to the cellar to try and find Woody, and Norm screams. So Diane decides to go down to the cellar to find him, and her candle goes out. It's pitch black again, and then Andy says hello, and she wakes up in Sam's office. Absolutely fantastic. So was there even ever a cellar in Cheers? Who knows? She wakes up in the office, and it turns out that even though she'd been dreaming, Andy has actually been released. And Frasier explains to her that he'd been talking to him, and he believes that he's no longer a threat. Diane doesn't need to be concerned. Frasier tries to convince Diane to talk to Andy, but understandably, this isn't going to happen. I don't want to say too much about why Andy was a threat, in case for some reason you haven't seen that episode, but to put it plainly, he was a real threat to Diane's life. And she is about to go home and just forget this whole mess. And as she approaches the door, Andy appears. Andy, of course, Andy Schroeder is played by Derek McGrath. And he tells the gang at Cheers, and he seems perfectly amicable. He doesn't seem like a threat. He tells the gang at Cheers that actually he's going to be getting married. But he kind of told his fiancée a whole bunch of lies. And he wants them to go along with these lies so he doesn't look bad. And unfortunately, he doesn't get a chance to actually explain what those lies are because Cynthia, his fiancée, arrives sooner than expected. And Cynthia is actually played by the wonderful Nancy Cartwright, which is pretty awesome. And the gang had initially agreed to go along with these lies because, as Frasier said, they should be reinforcing the good person he wants to be rather than focusing on the bad person he used to be. I think that's a really thought-provoking way to do it. Unfortunately, once Andy actually starts telling the lies, not everybody is happy. It turns out he told Cynthia that he owns the bar and he's been counselling Frasier and some other things that are just completely ridiculous. And initially, Diane's finding it quite amusing because she didn't want to do this anyway. And Norm is taking great opportunity, and Cliff tries, but it doesn't work in his favour. And then things go a step too far, where Andy takes money from the till. Well, Sam actually gives him the money because he doesn't really know how to handle this situation without revealing that Andy has been lying, and it's certainly very interesting. And he leaves. Andy and Cynthia leave, and Diane is certain that there's no way Andy is going to come back with that money, and he does. Presumably, he told Cynthia he just needed to nip back into Cheers for a second, and he does, and he returns, and Diane, afterwards, goes into Sam's office and apologises, and Sam says something quite profound, and he quotes William Blake, and then the penny dropped for me. I couldn't remember this episode from the first time I watched it. I could remember that Andy came back, but I couldn't remember the specifics. And I'm so glad because it was absolutely fantastic. And when Sam started to quote Blake again, I realized this is a dream. And it just goes from one strange thing to another with Sam, and I think it became pretty obvious at that point that it was another dream. Diane ending a sentence with a preposition was another pretty big giveaway. And then Cliff comes into the office and asks Sam to come and finish the word game that they were playing at the beginning of the episode. So no time has passed at all. Is there even a stellar in Cheers? It's amazing. It's a fantastic whirlwind of an episode. Really great performances, particularly from Ted Danson and Shelley Long, and George Wendt also had a few really great moments as well. And I just thought it was absolutely fantastic. Really clever, really atmospheric, very funny, brilliantly performed episode. Diane's nightmare is absolutely fantastic.